It's so easy to externalize our problems, but really I'm realizing more and more how all these things are internal. Right now, the emotion I'm feeling, the anger, the pressure, the sadness, whatever it may be, is not a response to the external situation, but it was already there before this happened. They just triggered it back up. And in fact, it was what created the situation. So let's say someone rejects me. Our usual paradigm is, oh, maybe I'm now frustrated because the person rejected me. But no, that is actually not helpful, and or what is actually more true, and we can really experience this. It is not normal to be frustrated, sad or lonely because of an external situation. We think it is normal, but it's not. It's actually a healthy response to be in complete equanimity, grace and neutrality or peace with anything that happens. So how do we switch that default mode to a mode of grace, intelligence, wisdom, groundedness, patience, virtue, natural virtue, not, rules in our mind, but it just naturally feels aligned and true to be this way. And really, all the things that right now we experience in our life that are bugging us, no matter if that's business problems, relationship issues, spiritual hurdles, resistances in any area of our lives, all these things are branches that reach back to a tree trunk. And that's a point where we can fundamentally reconfigure our operating system. You know what's really interesting? I can see more and more clearly how unstable the mind is, or what makes the mind unstable, and how blind it is. It's becoming more frequent that as I relax and let awareness open up and unfold and expand, that time and time again I can see how a previously held view or conviction or desire or tension or limited perspective suddenly gets revealed to be just that. And what that practically means is, for example, right now I think that I really need to work, or I think I really want to text this person, or I think I really feel that urge to do this or that. And it's usually connected to some sort of urge or impatience or pressure. And then when I relax, time and time again, it becomes now more clear as relaxation becomes a skill that happens more quickly and effectively. What happens is that when I relax, very quickly it becomes clear that that was a very limited perspective or delusion. It actually turns out that actually I was just being impatient and things are unfolding on their own time, or right now is actually not the time to text that person, or right now it's totally not time to work, or maybe not with the same kind of contraction. So really what becomes clear is how almost unable we are to live a decent life in sanity and ease and grace, basically a skillful life with intelligence. It's basically impossible to live a life like that as long we are not really relaxed and in touch with our ground truth, with our being, and when we are not rooted in clarity. So it's like, okay, our default mode of living is tension, conscious or unconscious. Our default mode of living is reactionary. Our default mode of living is coming from a place of survival, social survival, pressures, even if they are very subtle and mostly are subconscious and unconscious. So how do we switch that default mode to a mode of grace, intelligence, wisdom, groundedness, patience, virtue, natural virtue, not, rules in our mind, but it just naturally feels aligned and true to be this way. And really, the best answer I've come up with so far is, okay, I kind of want to get over the hill, if you will, because on the one side of the hill, even if we relax and ground ourselves, we roll back down. But getting over the hill, at that point, we've gotten beyond whatever we want to call it, point of no return or breaking point, or not even point of no return. I think there's always a way to get back to insanity or ungroundedness, instability, confusion, lostness, and or unclarity simply. But still, the way I think it's possible to get over the hill is with a prolonged period where we really slow down. For example, if we take a multi-week long retreat, more than 3 weeks, maybe even more than 2 months, if we can afford to do so, and do really basically nothing. And of course, this is something to be worked up to. This is not something we'll be doing just like that. Usually we may start with a 10-day Vipassana retreat. We may start with just 5 minutes meditation a day, and then work our way up until it naturally becomes a thing we are almost craving. And it can take a couple of years, but once we get to that point where, okay, now it's kind of time to actually kind of retreat into the woods, go up into the mountains, retreat into our caves, that's a point where we can fundamentally reconfigure our operating system, because we can get to such a deep point of rest, relaxation, and safety, because we have a container where we are fully allowed to let anything surface. Because even if we are completely break down, we know it's okay, we have a safe space for it. And of course, we only can create that safe space if we have, quote unquote, worked ourselves up to that point where we can hold that safe space for ourselves, where we can process our emotions, where we can be with anything that comes up, no matter how deeply suppressed it is in our psyche. And or having someone that can guide us and that can hold that safe space with us, and someone who has gone beyond the breaking point or gotten beyond the hill themselves. So when we have that precious opportunity to really touch base and deeply go to that point where we relax so deeply that stuff surfaces that is at the epicenter of all of our trauma tree. And what is a trauma tree? Basically, we could say, we can take the perspective that trauma, all the discomforts we've experienced, all the overwhelming experiences we've had in our lives, all the things that were something that wasn't immediately processed, something that still pops up in our mind, or when we think back to it is very uncomfortable or slightly uncomfortable, all these things are not loose and floating in our past and memory, but they are like a tree, and the branches go back to a trunk and to roots. So that means that all trauma is connected and built basically on top of each other. So we may have had some core fundamental traumas in our childhood, or even when we were born, the first pain that we've experienced, and everything else has basically latched onto that, or has grown from that, or has basically branched off that. So what that means is that if we really sink down to that level where that is stored so deeply in our subconscious mind, and we heal that, we basically, quote unquote, uproot so many other things. Basically all the things that right now we experience in our life that are bugging us, no matter if that's business problems, relationship issues, spiritual hurdles, resistances in any area of our lives, all these things are branches that reach back to a tree trunk, and they are also interconnected on that level. So it's not even just branches that go back to one thing, but all the branches are also interconnected. When we touch base and really get to that core, some of these core pains, and we don't have to go to the fundamental root pain that has caused it all, that maybe even goes back to past lives, but even if we just have one really fundamental branch, just like that tree up there, we don't need to go to the root, but even if we can just go to the epicenter of one of these leaves, right, that branches off into all of these different things, like that's already a big achievement, and it can already liberate a whole area of life if we can imagine each of these leaves being one area of our life, right? Or one dynamic in our psyche, that a pattern that's not serving us. So that is something that can get us over the hill. Now, of course, that is a big thing, who Not everyone can afford to take 1, 2, 3 months off and just do nothing. But really, we also get over small hills every day, and we can take on the challenge to do this also without seclusion. Not to run away from daily life, but actually learn to grow here. And we don't just want to be able to be in touch when we are on retreat, but we want to live life fully, but not be so entangled in it. So all this to say, what I'm really noticing right now is, okay, I see in my daily life how blind I am and how I'm constantly like a blind man, more and more running into stuff. Oh, I can literally see more and more how I'm hurting myself, how it's no one else who's doing this to me. It's so easy to externalize our problems, but really I'm realizing more and more how all these things are internal, how I'm attracting these things, how I'm attracting the pains, because they're just mirrors of the things that I haven't felt. So right now, when things happen, for example, what I ask myself in daily life, a practical practice I can suggest as well, of course. This may be easier said than done, but we can get to that point where naturally that response arises, where something just happened. All right, this is uncomfortable. I got rejected by someone I find attractive. The first reaction, or the second reaction, instead of externalizing the problem or victimizing yourself, oh, I can't get a girlfriend, or the person didn't see my value, or whatever it may be, whatever external rationalization we have for it. The first response we can also have to that situation is, oh, somehow I've attracted this. And right now the emotion I'm feeling, the anger, the pressure, the sadness, whatever it may be, is not a response to the external situation, but it was already there before this happened. And in fact, it was what created the situation. So let's say someone rejects me. Our usual paradigm is, oh, maybe I'm now frustrated because the person rejected me. But no, that is actually not helpful, and or what is actually more true, and we can really experience this. But what we can do either way, no matter if we believe if this is true or not, it is definitely helpful to see or look into how it's not that the person or the situation made me frustrated, but that the frustration was already deeply digged down in my heart and my subconscious mind. And I might not have felt the frustration because it was suppressed, but through the suppression it self-sabotaged me, and through subtle ways of how I was talking, how I was moving, I was basically attracting that situation and pushing that other person away from me, causing them to reject me. And also on more subtle energetic levels, but even if we just talk about psychology and how we behave and how we self-sabotage ourselves because of suppressed emotions and traumas, this is a way to explain it. And that means that our frustration that was suppressed, that we didn't feel, that we have even forgotten about, has caused this situation so that it is triggered and can come back up into our conscious mind. So in that moment, it is an opportunity to feel it. So what that means really is that when bad things happen in the external, we can immediately ask ourselves, how did I attract that situation? And wow, thanks for making yourself known again, the frustration, because it is not normal to be frustrated, sad, or lonely because of an external situation. We think it is normal, but it's not. It's actually a healthy response to be in complete equanimity, grace, and neutrality or peace with anything that happens. So really, every time something comes up, we think that it's normal because it always comes up when the situation happens. But it only always comes up because we never allow it to fully come up and be processed. If we, in that moment, allowed ourselves to fully experience a frustration, it would leave and be dissolved and be processed, and then the next time the situation happens, we would not be frustrated again, and in fact the situation probably would not happen again because we wouldn't attract it. So what does it mean again practically? I know that it's sometimes hard to pin something like this down, but basically what it means is, hey, I'm rejected by this person, now I'm feeling frustrated, now I'm simply looking at the frustration not as something that was caused by someone else, but as something that was there beforehand. I just have forgotten about it. So now it's time to feel it and actually almost thank the other person to remind yourself that it was there all the time. They just triggered it back up. And that is a great opportunity to feel it and process it. And through exercises like that, we can relax more because we realize it doesn't really matter what happens. We can just let life unfold. We don't have to sweat every decision because the pain will be there anyway. So it doesn't matter if we are rejected by that person or not. It doesn't matter if we go out or not. There will be a pain either way because it's already there. So it's like we cannot avoid painful situation. The only choice we have is, do we process the pain on our own now by relaxing into it or going on retreat? Or do we just go through life and then bump our heads because we are so blind, and then the pain gets triggered up? Either way is a challenge, and either way we have the decision to be willing to live up to the challenge, face that challenge and process those emotions, or we can resist them and then run in circles and keep attracting the same situations over and over again. So it's time to slow down and fully meet life with all it has to offer. All the pains, all the joys, all the tears, all the laughter. Meet it fully, without resistance, allowing it to wash us free and surrender to its perfection. No matter how brutal it may be or may seem. And with that, I'll leave you with the book recommendation, The Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer. It's a beautiful read. I've actively read it halfway through, and now the second half, I'm not actively reading so much more, but I'm just listening to small snippets every other day to remind myself of softening and surrendering and allowing life to do it what it may.